first of all, thanks to everyone for joining us today. We've got a super exciting session. So to start off with, I'm going to introduce our guest today. He's arguably responsible for one of the biggest shifts in web development that we've seen in the last decade. He is the co-founder and CTO of StackBlitz, the company that pioneered web containers and brought us the reason why we're all here today, Bolt.new. His work has fundamentally changed how we build for the web, moving full stack environments entirely into the browser. These tools are used by millions of developers worldwide and trusted by teams at industry giants like Google and Shopify. Before StackBlitz, he co-founded the developer education platform Thinkster, continuing his long-standing mission to make coding accessible to everyone. I'm thrilled to have Albert here to talk about the future of coding. Please welcome the technical architect behind the fastest growing dev tool in history, Albert Pai. Thanks for being here, Albert. Great. Okay, so just to welcome everybody, we have... Obviously, Eric was hoping to be here today. We do have a short video from Eric answering a couple of the audience questions. So we'll be showing that in a hot minute. Just a quick little outline over what we want to cover in this video is, we've been absolutely overwhelmed by some of the questions that you've submitted. We've had a wonderful response from all of you. So thank you so much for your responses. We've collated them, we've categorized them, and we'll be asking as many of those as we can on this call. We will hopefully have time to answer one or two questions from the chat today. So in the comments, if you do have any questions that come up along the way, feel free to leave them there. And as I said, hopefully at the end, we'll be able to answer some of those questions from this actual call. And also, if we don't have time for those, we'll open a Reddit thread. And also, as a big thank you for all of you for entering your questions, we will be announcing the winner of the $500 token credit at the end of this call. So stay tuned and we'll find out who that goes to. So to kick us off, let's start off with Eric's video that we've recorded. As we said, he regretfully couldn't make it. He had a bit of an emergency come up, but he did his best to answer these questions. And so we'll start off with a video by Eric. Our CEO of StackBlitz, Eric Simons, joining us on the call for this AMA. Thanks for joining us, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. It's stoked to be here.
As our community has submitted, we've got a bunch of questions from our premium customers. And so we'll go through some of these now and we'll give you a chance to answer them directly.
Awesome.
What is one of the most powerful things that you've seen Bolt that it's capable of doing? And are there any examples of products that have been built and scaling with Bolt that you're proud of?
Yeah, I think there's a number, right? I mean, we have everyone from 10-year-olds to the Fortune 10, using Bolt, and so I think you look at like some of our customers like Booking.com. They're using this for various parts of. I think they're like the car rental part of Booking.com. They're using Bolt to prototype and ship things, to those experiences, which is just incredible because that's the number of people and revenue that's flowing through that is wild. And then you look at people that are just building out side projects. And like there's a project called the Browser Lab, and that's I think it's like the browserlab.com. It's a 3D modeling product. And you go to it, you can literally create 3D models in your browser, and it has scaled up, like to a decent amount of scale, from this really awesome guy in the community named Ian, and it's just it's crazy that you can build this sort of stuff without even kind of knowing like how it's actually being built under the hood, right?
Yeah.
So like that to me is like kind of two examples I think are pretty cool.
If you had a magic wand, what capabilities would you add to Bolt? And are there any updates you can give us about features coming soon?
Yeah, I think magic wand of things I would want Bolt. I think the main things that I would really want are really awesome like collaboration features, kind of like Google Docs or Figma style. I think there's some really cool stuff that you can do when if you can almost treat Bolt as like a third coworker, right? Where you and your friend can be, or your colleague can be prompting it basically, or having a conversation with that. I think some interesting things we can do there. And so like, we're investing in that stuff and how that can be, you know.
Here's a fun one for you. What did you want to be when you were a kid?
Yeah, there's kind of a number of things that I wanted to do. Being an entrepreneur and technology company CEO was one of them. So check. You know, at one point I was like, oh man, like the people that they're the garbage men, they only have to work 1 day a week. That's pretty awesome. Except I had found out later in life, like they don't work 1 day a week, and you kind of blew my mind. Yeah, I mean, I think I always loved building things. I was like, you know, very early, I was very into construction. I thought like construction trucks were the coolest thing ever. I also liked, you know, doing music and acting and stuff. But to me, I've always been kind of a builder at heart. So, you know, I'm doing what I've always wanted to do, honestly.
Hi guys, I'm just going to take this chance and ask Albert. Albert, is there anything? Well, I'm kind of curious. Now that we've asked Eric what he'd like to do as a kid, would you like to share what you wanted to do as a kid?
Yeah, one of them was a video game designer or tester, because I felt like that was a job where like maybe you just like play video games all day and get paid for it. So that'd be kind of cool. And another one was being a like teacher, like a math teacher or something, because I was like really into math when I was growing up.
Awesome. Seems like you're doing a bit of both with what you're doing.
Yeah, best of both worlds here.
Yeah. Okay, great. Carrying on to another question. Do you tell your AI agents to make mistakes or to burn out credits? As a real question.
No, we do not. We do not. And you can like validate this, right? Like you can go and you have the thing dump out the system prompts and stuff. We've even open source versions of Bolt, you know, that you can go and look at. And you know, I think that it's like a you know, I think it's easy to look at these tools and go, okay, like there's an incentive for them to, you know, make errors and stuff like that. But the reality is that, you know, any company that does that, but I'm sure that there are some that like tried this. But the problem is it's a short-term game, man, because people are gonna, try out other products that are not doing that, and they're going to work better, and you're not going to retain your customers. And we're here for the long haul, and you know, we've been around for a year at this point. And we're not going to anytime soon. So, you know, I think that's kind of the main thing, especially like we're using like frontier agents like Claude Code directly in Bolt at this point. So you're going to see like basically the same level of performance, and if not, you know, enhanced with the stuff we're doing on top of it. But you can, yeah. So I think an easy way to validate it would literally just be deploying the stuff to your local machine and running against Claude Code, seeing what errors, you know, occur or whatever there. But yeah, anyway, so there's a disincentive for us to do this, you know, because we want to operate the business for more than a month, right? I think you start to like your customers.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Eric. Everyone in the community is going to be super grateful that you were able to answer all of their questions. So really big thank you for joining us on this call.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hell yeah.
Okay, we're back. Albert, is there anything that you saw in that video that maybe you'd like to touch on or reiterate or add your opinions to?
Yeah, the one thing about burning tokens is like, yeah, that's always something that we're trying to improve. And no, we don't burn your tokens on purpose. Like that's a painful experience that we're constantly trying to improve over time. So yeah, appreciate y'all.
And for the newer people to join our community, maybe if you're struggling with prompts, that's maybe why it feels like some of the tokens are getting burned. But as you get better and better at prompt engineering, it feels like it's answering your questions more accurately. Yeah, great. 100%. So a little background on Albert. As I mentioned before, he's one of the key contributors to web containers, which is really what allowed Bolt to become what it is today. So just to set the scene, Albert, what were what were some of the, the key challenges in building web containers for years before Bolt, and how did that long investment pay off in Bolt's performance and reliability compared to other vibe coding tools?
Yeah, great question. Because the sort of like origins of web container actually started from the company that Eric and I were working on before StackBlitz, Thinkster, that you had mentioned before. And at Thinkster, we were teaching folks how to code, and one of the things that we ran into was a lot of our customers, they would submit like support issues about their dev environments not working properly. It was less about like the actual like contents of the curriculum that we were trying to teach, but more on like the actual like setup of the environment. And that's what sort of made us led us to creating StackBlitz to kind of help solve for that. Creating like a sandbox where you can install like npm modules and like a full stack Node.js environment within the browser, so that it becomes like a one click to essentially get your contents of the project up and running, or the contents of the tutorial up and running. So yeah, that's what led us to make StackBlitz, and it's been a really interesting challenge, because we were working on web containers for probably like 7 years leading up to the launch of Bolt. And it gave us a good environment for running code in the browser. But as LLMs became a lot more powerful, it was interesting to see like, okay, not just like human codes using sandboxes in the browser, like that provides values for like humans developing, but it also provides like a good like dev environment for us to put AI generated code into, and to run that pretty efficiently on the user's machine. And yeah, there was definitely a lot of technical challenges along the way, especially just being constrained by what you can or can't do within a browser. And there was also just like not a lot of prior art, so it's not like we can see what someone else did or approach the problem and like learn by example on that. There's a lot of we had to cut our teeth on a lot of different technical challenges in order to make web containers viable.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome that it integrates so well with AI. And was AI kind of as part of your implementation? Like, was that on the roadmap while you were building web containers, or is that something that kind of came afterwards?
Yeah, it was definitely something that came afterwards, especially just with the market moving so quickly over like the past like 2-3 years. So it wasn't on our roadmap when we initially like created web containers, but I think starting at like the beginning of last year, we started to explore in the AI space more. And I think the first few passes we took around it, the frontier models like weren't strong enough or capable enough, where the outputs that they would provide would like, they would output code, but there'd be a lot of errors, like when you try to boot a project that was like written from scratch from AI. But as these models became more and more capable, I think around like the summer of last year, that's when we like took another stab at merging like AI with web containers, and that's when we were able to get more of that aha moment of like, oh wow, like when the LLM does provide like a working project with like decent designs and whatnot, like that's actually like a really good experience, and is actually providing something that is like net new that we weren't able to do previously.
That's fantastic. What were some of the hard engineering constraints you faced when building web containers and Bolt?
Yeah, like I mentioned previously, a lot of it was just like having no prior art and being constrained by the browser. So like arbitrary like network connections, or like having to reinvent like HTTP servers running within the browser. Like that was just something that we essentially had to write like a virtual like networking layer from scratch to address these problems, because like we kind of take like localhost, like developing on localhost for granted, but like getting all of that ported into the browser was, yeah, just a lot of various different parts of the stack had to kind of get picked apart and like kind of rethink how that would work in the browser, like npm modules, and being able to lazy load all of the part of the stacks into the browser.
So we can thank you for all your years of hard work to make something like Bolt possible for us.
Yeah, of course.
So we've categorized our questions a little bit. So we're going to dive into vision and strategy now. And one of the questions, what problem did you originally build Bolt.new to solve and that most users still don't fully understand?
Yeah, I think it's the idea of reducing the friction to take like an idea that you might have to either put it into production or to get like a working prototype that you can like share with someone else, get feedback on, and kind of iterate to the path to production. And that kind of stems back to the philosophy that we had around like StackBlitz and maybe even Thinkster, where Thinkster is like reducing friction by like teaching people how to code, and then StackBlitz was like the next iteration of that of like, okay, let's maybe solve the same problem but from like the dev environment perspective. And then I think with Bolt, it kind of wraps everything like end to end, where it's like, okay, you as someone that doesn't know how to code too much, they are able to like reduce the barriers so that they can essentially prompt some of their ideas that they may have and actually get something workable on the other end.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's awesome. So if you're rebuilding Bolt from the ground up for an AI native world, what core principles would you hardwire into the platform from day one?
Yeah, good question. I think I think having more collaboration out of the box, like more like multiplayer features, would be cool. We were kind of treating Bolt as like an experiment to start, so a lot of the flows that and product experience that we have is pretty like single player, if you will. That and yeah, just being able to receive like more feedback about the product around it, like giving feedback on like prompts and like how well they did and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, ultimately development is a collaborative process. So weaving those into the product, I think we're all really excited for what's to come there.
Yeah.
So how do you define AI and automation in Bolt's long-term vision? What features do you think will transform the developer experience in 2026?
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is like improving like the connectivity of the experience, if you will, whether that's collaborating with other folks in your team or connecting the project experience with other integrations. Like currently we have integrations with like Cloud and Stripe, but seeing what we can do to bring more and more of your workflows that already exist and connect with those and streamline those within the Bolt and AI experience that we're providing there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. So how does Bolt plan to stay competitive given the explosion of the AI market over the past few years? Which vehicles of growth do you plan to double down on?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of that comes down to like continuing to listen to our users' feedback on how we can continue to improve the experience and also making teams more successful at their workflows using Bolt. That and also just paying attention to the market because it's a landscape that changes pretty rapidly. So as new like models come out, we're always keen to exploring and experimenting to see like, okay, is this an improvement that we can also bring to our users that can either like improve like the speed of iteration that or reduce like the cost of like prompts and token consumption for end users.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And isn't it exciting that right now is possibly the worst the agents will ever be?
Yeah, that is the truth. It's like it only gets better day by day, and
Mm-hmm.
every day is like the worst experience that is continuing to go like up and to the right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. So now let's jump into a bit of product direction and maybe some trade-offs. So Bolt walks a line between vibe coding for non-technical creators and serious full stack development environment. What trade-offs have you had to make? And can the Bolt agent work for both?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's definitely a constant like balancing act that we have to do between like streamlining the product experience, but also not like reducing it too hard, where like our power users are experiencing like additional friction from us trying to simplify the experience. One of the trade-offs that I can think of is when Bolt initially launched, like when you were prompting, the experience was that you would actually see all of the code getting like generated like in real time on the file system, because and that kind of goes back to like StackBlitz was initially just focusing on the developer market, because that was who we were catering to previously. So that's what led us to kind of putting like code front and center for the experience. But as we saw a lot more new customers come on and to adopt it, we're realizing that not everyone who's using Bolt is actually like a programmer by trade. So we one of the trade-offs there was like we flipped the experience so that the preview and like the visuals of what you're working on is more front and center, but we still keep the ability to, like, if you have to manually jump into the code, like that, the code pane is still there if you want to do manual edits. So I think a lot of it is coming down to like picking sane defaults to kind of serve the common denominator, but also giving the additional like flexibility for those more power users use cases to enable them to do what they want to do as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Best of both worlds.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Bolt has the potential to evolve a little bit more, you know, like add abstraction layers, or, you know, you can add a project management layer on. And we've already touched on collaboration. Maybe we can weave in roadmaps into the code development as well, or cross-file workflows. Is this something that you expect the product to grow into and offer more of?
Yeah, definitely. Like today, we have the integration with Figma, where you can take a Figma design and port it into your into a Bolt project. So we're definitely looking into what other workflows we can tackle on that front, because and a lot of that is driven by user feedback as well. Like we're hearing a lot of users, like they might have like product requirements that they go to like ChatGPT with to like do a few turns before they get like their final initial prompt and then put into Bolt. Which is great. I'm happy to hear that folks are doing that. But to me, I'm like, that's like an additional step that we can ideally like streamline within our product, and we should be able to help those users get to like those refined first prompts. And also going back to like connectivity, like seeing what other like platforms we can integrate with to get those like your workflows and context into your projects, whether that's like ticketing systems or just other sources of context where it's like, hey, we're discussing a product requirement here. Let's maybe consume that and pull that into Bolt so that we can get a prototype spun up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Fantastic. So on to our next question. How do you design a product roadmap that balances your founder intuition with user-driven data, especially when early users want incremental improvements, but the vision requires big leaps?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think wherever we can, we try to use the products ourselves just so that we can kind of feel the same experience and see like where those kind of like big leaps, like where that feedback is kind of stemming from, and then taking those bigger problems and breaking them down into more incremental ones so that we can still make progress and provide value to our end users as we're developing things, and then constantly listening to folks' feedback to see where we can continue to improve, and then also the perspective of like building versus buying, like for like how we approach like our AI stack. A lot of the models we use are upstream from like Anthropic and OpenAI, so just seeing what we can leverage from what's already available on the market versus like having to implement like our own models ourselves is another approach where we can kind of outsource some of those problems and still reap the benefits and have like incremental leaps in parallel with our own product development.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. Now we're just going to take a quick break from the previously submitted questions, and we're going to move over into the chat now and just ask a few questions. So, or answer a few of the questions. So I've got one here from John. 2 questions. When you duplicate a project, the database is not copied. It does not copy the tables or the rows. You know, maybe the database schema, but not the data itself. When you activate email confirmation, the limit is 2 emails per hour. However, the ability to set up your own SMTP server has been removed. Can this be, you know, reinstated?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, the issue with the database not being copied over, that's something that we definitely want to give more flexibility on, so that when you duplicate a project, like maybe there's more flexibility of saying like, do you want to bring over your integration data, or just like start like a fresh copy. Regarding the SMTP limits, I believe you still should be able to bring your own provider for that. I saw someone else in the comments mention resend, so that could be another way. If you bring your own like resend account, then you can bypass any sending limits, or you should have more control over the rate limiting around that experience.
Mm-hmm. Great. So we've got another question from Sean. In the last couple of weeks, I've seen Replit and now Cursor adding more design tool capabilities. Will Bolt be adding that soon?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's feedback that we're hearing a lot as well, and especially for like being able to make like simple changes, whether that's like, hey, I just want to change like the title of this page, or maybe just like copy changes on a landing page. Those are experiences that currently like you kind of have to like prompt and do like a full turn to get those changes landed, and sometimes you have to be a bit verbose about them, but yeah, we're definitely looking to see what we can do to streamline those experiences, so that those simpler like text changes or visual changes can be done in a more streamlined way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something we're actively working on, which should be coming out soon, without giving too much away. We've got Marios. Greetings from Cyprus. We've developed a SaaS platform entirely on Bolt. Congratulations to them, including the database. Now we want to migrate it to a different server. Is there a best practice for doing so?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, for that, I would recommend maybe connecting the project up to like a GitHub repo, and then once you have your code and repo set up there, then you can start to like migrate over the integrations, whether that's like the Supabase like lifecycle around the database, like that those are pieces you can then potentially port to CI and stuff like that. But I would say kind of landing things into GitHub is probably like the next best step once you're kind of like in a production ready-ish sort of phase, or ready to migrate sort of phase.
Mm-hmm. Great. We've got one from Josh. I'm wondering why it takes 60 days to transfer a domain that was bought inside of Bolt to the new domain host like Netlify or Namecheap.
Yeah, good question. And that's actually a restriction based off of ICANN, I believe. So that restriction, I believe, applies to any new domain that you buy. So if you buy a new domain from like Namecheap or GoDaddy, typically there's like a 60-day wait before you can actually transfer out to another registrar. So I don't love that there's that restriction there, but it's a restriction that I think all registrars for at least new domain registrations face with domain transfer.
Mm-hmm. So I got a question here about support from Kent. At present, there's minimal activity on the support channels, whether it's through socials or others, and it represents, people feel that they're delayed a little bit, and I guess I can touch on this a little bit. We've hired a lot more customer success engineers recently, so they're definitely working on the inbox that we have, our support inboxes. We've been systematically working that down, and just wondering if maybe there's anything else you'd like to touch on there, how we're trying to improve this.
Yeah, we're always trying to constantly improve there, and like Will said, we're hiring more folks to help out on that front, and yeah, also just seeing what other tools we can do to streamline our own internal processes around that. But yeah, definitely something that we're trying to improve.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. Got another question here from Marios. Which features does your competition offer that you would also like to see in Bolt?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, one of the things that I think Cursor, I think it was also mentioned in the chat, but Cursor was also recently announced something around like visual editing. So I think that like the features like that, where it's like reducing the friction to make changes, and also involving more more net new workflows, like enabling designers to maybe even collaborate within a Bolt project. I think those are things that we want to see that enable more collaboration and more connectivity around the Bolt experience.
Just to add on that, I will say that I think Bolt is one of the state-of-the-art or leading, feature we'll implement features before anybody else. I think it was back in January that we brought Expo into the stack, and we were allowing React Native apps, and also with the Bolt Cloud, leveraging the Claude agent, one of the first tools to really make use of these CLI tools. So I feel like with Bolt, most of the times a feature comes out, we may be the first ones to do it. Okay, let's quickly jump back into a few of the questions that were submitted beforehand. Here we go. This is to do with building serious apps with Bolt. So what's the smartest way to structure a Bolt app so it can evolve from a simple MVP into a full SaaS without hitting architectural limitations?
Yeah, I think a good way of approaching this is it can be easy to try to do too much at once. So trying to break down your problem into like smaller, more iterative prompts, and maybe even just focusing on just the visuals to start. Like just kind of like a design workflow where like maybe you start in Figma or like a wireframe. But I guess the Bolt variant of that is like maybe start by just focusing on like the visual like UI elements, making sure that the look and feel works before sort of swapping over to focus on like the functionality, so that both of those pieces can kind of be done in isolation, and then the agent can then focus on just the visuals versus just the functionality, instead of like trying to do everything at once, which could potentially overwhelm the AI and also cost more tokens while you're prompting in that way.
Totally. Yeah. If you're giving it a giant PRD with multiple pages and how all these features work, plus authentication and a whole bunch of server functions, it can often be a little bit too much. So maybe it's good to have that in maybe a markdown file that you save in the project, but then when it comes to implementing, breaking that down step by step.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Do you have any tips and tricks when it comes to speaking with the Bolt agent? Can I ensure that Bolt follows a strictly sequential flow without inventing extra steps or mixing front-end, back-end logic?
Got it. Yeah, I think being as specific as possible typically helps the agent to make sure that whatever you're trying to focus on is the thing that it's trying to solve for. That and what I was mentioning before, like trying to break the problem down into smaller pieces and giving like the smaller tasks for the agent over more prompts is typically increases like the fidelity of what you're trying to output throughout the prompting process.
We've got a great question here from Kime. What makes a CEO or CTO partnership truly effective in fast-moving startups?
Yeah, great question. I think what helps with that is Eric and I have known each other since childhood. Like we grew up down the street from each other. So having a good relationship with your business partner that goes way back, that you can trust sort of implicitly is pretty key. That and just being a good counterbalance to each other. Like we over like various fronts, we usually keep each other in check. Where but like different areas of responsibilities that Eric might be more excited about, like I'll help kind of like sanity check to see like, okay, does this idea make sense, and vice versa. When I have ideas that I go to Eric with, he always provides like honest and direct feedback of like, okay, this is why this wouldn't work, and just being able to have those sort of like open conversations and good communication, and just being able to be on the same page, I think helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So guys, don't go isolating your childhood friends. You may end up starting a company. We've got one from Gabe. Gemini and Codex, I assume, still on the roadmap?
Yeah, we're always looking to give more flexibility and choices. So yeah, we are looking to land more choices for different agents, so it's not just Claude. And we've been doing a lot of internal testing around the experience as well. So So yeah, still on the roadmap, and once it's in a more ready state, you should be hearing from us about it.
We've got another question here from Paul. I really struggle with Bolt updating my Supabase edge functions. Is there a known issue? I need to tell Bolt only write to GitHub so I can manually update Supabase. It can be a pain to copy and paste them into the chat each time.
Got it. Yeah, that can be a tricky one, because yeah, with edge functions, it brings a bit more complexity into the system. It is something that we should be able to support though. So so yeah, I'd be curious to get hard for me to say like what exactly is going on there, but I'd be curious to hear more details so that we can help get to the bottom of that one.
Yeah. So I guess with this in particular, and if there are other questions that we don't quite get to answering, we'll do our best in our Reddit Bolt.new builders to answer some questions there. So if you want to leave links to your project, hopefully we'll be able to get round to them. Okay, so let's jump back in. We've got a few other questions. Bolt's memory can sometimes feel short and mistakes can burn tokens fast. What's being done to reduce errors or avoid penalizing users?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, on our side, we're always looking to see how we can eliminate like error loops or things that just continue to error out. So typically before we return results back to a user, we do additional testing on the outputs to make sure that they should work as expected. And also just like under the hood, we're always trying to optimize like for error handling and stuff like that. Like, are there better agents that are maybe more cost efficient that then reduces the token consumption for the user for dealing with errors? And yeah, just putting a lot more infrastructure in place to kind of deal with error handling on the agent side.
So it sounds like there are multiple agents at play under the hood, even though it seems as though it's just one chat interface. Yeah. So I'll bring up another question. So what's the best way to make my Bolt project unique so it's not instantly recognizable as a Bolt project?
Yeah, good question. I think one of the things that helps is if you already have a like screenshot of like what you want to design, or a screenshot of like another website that you want to take the design inspiration from, you can submit that as part of your prompt so that Bolt will do like additional like design pass to kind of mirror the screenshot that you upload. So it's not just like more of like stock looking like all the other Bolt projects. So yeah, either that or prompting. After your first prompts, you can kind of try to refine the design a bit more so that it looks a bit more custom and to your taste.
Yeah, I will say with the new Claude agent, it's very good at copying designs from screenshots, so you can use those as inspiration, like you said. We've got another one. At what point do you know an MVP is ready to launch? When do you start real user testing, and what tools can I use along the way? Maybe analytics. Yeah. So for that approach, I would say like use if you have a prototype that maybe isn't fully functional, I would say like try to get user feedback early and often, even before like the MVP is in a ready state, just to kind of sanity check and get feedback at as early as possible. But yeah, when it is ready, I think the things that you want to make sure is like is my database set up well with proper security rules and row level security on the Supabase side. And yeah, you mentioned analytics, which I think is also important as well. So you can actually measure like, hey, like throughout my user experience, like what are my users doing? How are they behaving? Where's their drop off, and where can I actually improve the funnel so that I can actually get the users to that like sort of like aha moment to receive value from your product. So we've got a question about Bolt's DIY. Maybe would you mind outlining to those who aren't familiar with Bolt DIY what it is, and maybe just a little status update on it?
Yeah, so Bolt.diy is essentially like a open source version of Bolt that we released around when Bolt launched. So I believe it's still actively maintained by the community, where they've been adding a lot of new features, like there tends to be like more model support where you can like bring your own models and API keys for that. So it's something that's kind of like run in parallel with Bolt. And it's also like a good sort of like testing ground as well for us to see like, okay, how do other LLM providers work in our experience, and other infrastructure stuff, like how do we get like the multi-model support and things like that in there. So it's kind of like another sandbox or sort of like environment for us to just explore ideas and also get community input and customization around the experience.
Great. We've got one from Marius. What's the biggest technical challenge Bolt solved that competitors still struggle with?
Gotcha. Good question. I think one of the biggest technical challenges we solved is probably the web container challenge, because I think on a lot of the other competitors' stacks, the development environment is typically run like server side in the cloud. And what that typically leads to is like if you're trying to like make edits to your website or your project, you're essentially remoted into like some smaller instance on the cloud, probably smaller than like the laptop or desktop that you're using to access it. And that's the thing that's running your project to kind of provide like the previews and like the code panes for you to actually edit code. With web container, all of that is localized to your browser tab. So it's effectively like it should be the same experience, latency and performance wise, as like developing on localhost. So there isn't that sort of like keystroke lag when you are versus like when you're developing remotely, and it gives you that sort of like universal experience of being able to spin up a project pretty rapidly from within the browser.
That is awesome. Reaping the rewards of all that hard work on web containers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So from Tom here, what's the best way to have one project have knowledge about another? For instance, using the application project to spin off a marketing site.
Yeah, good question. So I think one of the best ways is if you can provide in I believe your project settings pane, there's a section to provide additional like context or like a base prompt for that gets taken into like all of the future prompts that you do with your projects. So if there's any context from like one project that you want to persist to another one, using that is probably the best way to get that context kind of ported over. In the future we'll see if there's additional ways we can streamline that by kind of like more implicitly getting that context into your project so that it's less of a manual process. But for now, I think using your project context to kind of seed your prompts is probably the best way to do that.
Awesome. Okay, we're on to our next section, the future of making. So right now, Bolt massively accelerates people who can already code. How should education evolve so the next generation truly takes advantage of AI tools rather than just treating them as shortcuts?
Yeah, good question. I think I think with vibe coding, it's definitely reduced the friction so that folks can actually see like the aha moment and see like, okay, if I apply myself, like I'm able to make these changes with little effort. I guess a good analogy is kind of like math class, where it's like you typically learn like the formulas first, and then you get to use a calculator. But you can also do it in reverse, where I feel like with vibe coding, it's like you get that calculator experience up front. But then if you actually need to like go and debug something, it's still valuable to know what like the actual like formulas are under the hood. So I think with vibe coding, it makes the sort of like applied part of programming a bit more motivating, because you can see the results end to end a lot quicker. And then that motivation should hopefully drive the users to then dig in to see what's going on under the hood. Because AI will do its best job, but it's not going to get everything right 100% of the time. And it's those moments where it's like, all right, I need to dig into the code to see what's going on. That's when like having more context and knowledge around like how the code base is structured and how the language works. Those are still like key, like important things to know, albeit AI just helps kind of accelerate all of the learnings around that.
Mm-hmm. That is a great analogy with the calculator there. And something that, I've personally benefited from is using the agent and discussing and maybe explaining like, what are the best practices to implement this? And before you make a request to do something, you can have that discussion in plan mode with the agent beforehand. So it really helps you understand what are the different approaches that can be taken here. And then it'll often spit out a variety of options, and then you can go forward depending on what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Most of us have side projects that stall because dev gets frustrating. Has there been a moment where you or the team hit a wall building a project with bolts, and from facing that issue, it's directly inspired a change or a feature within Bolt?
Yeah, I think one of the pains that we or frustrations that we felt with just using the product ourselves has also been one that we heard a lot around, like, but at least when Bolt launched, there's a lot of issues around like error loops and just like constant errors where you would hit like fix error and it wouldn't actually fix the error and stuff like that. So that definitely led us to take the sort of like error correction and handling experience a bit more seriously, because it's like, if we're running into it, our users are running into it, and it's not a great experience to just see your tokens burn away and not actually get the desired output.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. On that topic, how do you see as multimodal agents evolve and they're able to maybe use a screenshot or an understanding of the app? Do you expect that Bolt may be weaving some more of that direct feedback into the agent itself?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think we're leaning into like a more of like a multi-agent or mixture of agents sort of architecture. So kind of like picking like libraries for like when you're structuring your project, it's like usually there's like a right library or tool for their job. I think that analogy kind of carries over to agents as well, where if you have like an error handling specific agent, like that might be a more efficient way to handle any specific or recurring problems that you might have.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, we asked Eric this in the video before, but if there's anything you'd like to add on, now's a good opportunity. What's one of the most powerful things that you've seen Bolt be capable of doing? And do you have examples of product builds that are scaling with Bolt?
Yeah, good question. I think one of the some of the most powerful things are the integrations that we have, where we have the Stripe integration, so that if you want to be able to like implement a project that takes payments, that's something that is a lot more streamlined in our product experience, where you can like enable a Stripe integration, set up your products, and start taking payments to like essentially one of the first steps to becoming a real business. That and our integrations with Bolt Cloud, where it's essentially like one click to get your app deployed onto a public URL, and kind of streamlining all of those things, those sort of like needs for the end user, so that it really reduces the friction of like, hey, my idea is like ready and I want to like make it go live and start taking payments. Like just being able to reduce the friction around those parts. And in terms of things that we've seen kind of built in scaling with Bolt, I believe we have like a gallery section on our website, Bolt.new/gallery, where we showcase a lot of what the community has built and submitted. So feel free to go head over there and check out what people are working on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we've got a bit of a technical one from Jay. Is there a best practice for moving an Expo mobile app, which is deployed to test flight, from Bolt v1 to v2 without breaking anything?
Yeah, good question. I think to be safe, if you're able to like duplicate your project before the migration or push the project to a Git repo, that's always a good like first step to make sure that when you do switch from v1 to v2, that things don't just like break out of the box and you have a point in time where you can restore it. But once you've duplicated the project, then I would maybe then go into the duplicated version and try turning on like the v2 agent and prompting to see how that experience works, if anything breaks, and just going from there.
Bolt's very generous with giving us, I think it's pretty much unlimited free chats, right, and free projects. So I know the Bolt database is, unlimited Bolt databases compared to Supabase where you've only got 2. So you can lean into that ability to duplicate and try different things. So security is a big concern, especially for people who are kind of newer to the space. Are there safeguards to prevent malicious code or vulnerabilities? And maybe are there tools in Bolt that currently help us protect our project and so that we know that it's been built securely?
Yeah, good question. And that is something that we're always trying to harden. Like currently we have like the sort of like security scans around Supabase to help make sure that you have the proper like row level security rules set up for your database. So it's things like that and within the agent, we always instruct the agent to make sure that we implement things in sort of like the best practice ways from a security perspective. So those are the fronts where that exist today, and we're always constantly trying to improve our security on various fronts, whether that's more tooling to increase like the scans and surface these any potential issues up to the user, and also more safeguards around the agent to make sure that as the agent's working, that's always something that's kept in mind.
Yeah. No, that's great. And that security scan that came out a few weeks ago has been fantastic, how you can ask Bolt directly to fix that, to fix any of the issues you may have. So we do have also a bit of a question around some of maybe the tools that people aren't fully aware about. Maybe you can give a little bit of context. Like we use the build tool Vite, which I believe means quickly in French. That's where the name comes from. And then also, Next.js as a framework. Do you mind giving maybe a little bit of background around each of these and what role they play in building web applications?
Yeah, happy to. With Vite, Vite's the tool that essentially bundles up your application and makes it sort of like modular and runnable and manages like the build part of the application. And Vite's a good tool to use because it's kind of it's got a pretty streamlined configuration, and it's also it also runs well within web container and is able to boot up applications pretty quickly. So for providing that quick sort of like feedback loop where as changes come in, you can kind of in real time like do like hot module reloading. Those are all capabilities that we're leveraging from Vite in order to help kind of augment that experience. And with Next.js, it's a good framework because it's full stack, so it includes both the front end and your back end in the same repo. So that's also convenient for the AI to kind of get full context of your project, and it's not just like focusing only on like a front end repo or just a back end repo. It kind of gets that full stack context out of the box.
Fantastic. That's what we want, more context. Context is king, right?
Exactly.
So we've got a question here from Tom. Human programmers sign IP ownership agreements. You see IP ownership problems that will emerge with code or app generators if one of the vibe coded projects becomes an extremely valuable asset based on a discovery from vibe coding.
Yeah, good question. I think that kind of goes back to on our side, we don't take IP ownership on anything that is output by our AI. That still belongs to the users that are using Bolt. And I think it kind of goes back to like the calculator analogy that I had. Like it would be kind of criminal for like if like doing math, if a calculator then takes like ownership over whatever like IP or like new formula that you came up with. And I think we kind of share the same perspective where like I don't think we want to get into that game of like taking IP over, because I think it like the AI at the end of the day is a tool, like a calculator, and it's the humans that matter at the end of the day, and like the IP should belong to the human and not like an entity or whatever. So yeah.
Yes, totally. We've got a question here from Brian, and this is maybe touches on what we were talking about with Bolt DIY before. But he was wondering if Bolt maybe will create an API where you could talk directly to it.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear more use cases of like what you'd like to see the API for, whether that's like actually like fetching like project data from the API, or if it's like, hey, I want to be able to like prompt, like submit prompts to like an existing project via API. So yeah, I think it's something that we're open to exploring, but we'd like to hear more use cases around like what folks want to use it for, so that we can better serve their needs.
It looks like Brian is replying. He's saying he wants to send a message from his phone, like publish the app.
Gotcha. Yeah, good point. Yeah. I'd be curious if an improved like mobile experience might help solve that. Like if you can just open up like a Bolt project from your phone. I think you might be able to do it today, but having WebContainer boot on mobile tends to struggle, since it tends to take up a bit more like system or phone resources. But we are looking into see how we can improve that the sort of like mobile experience, so that you can do prompting like on the go or publish changes while you're on mobile as well.
Great. Well, we're almost wrapping up. So if we have any more questions, feel free to pop them through now. I think it's almost time to announce the winner of the $500 Bolt credit. So I hope this person is live with us today. Let's reveal the winner, the $500 credit. Firstly, thanks again, all of you, for submitting your questions. We hope we've been able to do the best in answering them. We'll be putting a Reddit link in the comments as well. So if there were any that we didn't quite get to today, feel free to ask them there and we'll do our best to answer them. And the winner of the $500 Bolt credit goes to, oh, hasn't displayed just yet. Let me make sure I have it loaded. Here we go. Brian Zolk. So we'll be emailing you with a $500 Bolt credit. So excited to see what you build with it.
Nice.
Okay.
Congrats, Brian.
Congrats, Brian. Actually, and that is Brian in the chat. So there we go. Now, Albert, are there any closing remarks, anything you'd like to leave some of our premium customers excited about? And I know you've been working incredibly hard. What can we look forward to in 2026?
Gotcha. Yeah, we're looking forward to just continuing to ship improvements and hearing what you guys think of the work that we're doing. And yeah, just we always want to make sure that we're hitting the needs that our customers have and improving the product experience over time. So yeah, appreciate all the feedback and the patience with us getting back to you, whether it's feature requests or support requests. Happy to have a great community of folks to be working with.
Yeah, speaking of the community, it's really done. Oh, there's a fire engine. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Speaking of the community, I think like it's brought some like incredibly, future thinking people into the community, and we're all, I guess, trying to leverage these tools as best as possible. And the industry is changing faster than ever, and it's just such a great opportunity for all of us to create things that maybe weren't possible 6 months ago or 12 months ago. And so it's given all the founders in the audience or the entrepreneurs who've always had these ideas of things to build it's becoming easier and easier and easier. So just want to thank you, Albert, for all the hard work that you've been doing over the last, what, eight years at StackBlitz?
Yeah, just about.
Just about. And now for making tools like this possible to all of us. So big thanks again. And also a big thank you to Kate and Donald, who have been in the chat helping you. For all of our customers, as I said, if you want, feel free, you can reach out with any other questions that you have on our Reddit. So that's Bolt.new builders, and I'll leave a link to that in the chat in a minute. So thanks again, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we will be posting a recording of this. So thanks, Albert.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me on here. Appreciate it.